That's right. We're here to inspire people to read the Bible for themselves and work out their own answers more than
Yes.
to
And
give
let us
answers. Yeah, and let us know, please. We're helpless.
Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible. This is day 17, covering Genesis 48, 49, and 50.
Genesis 48, Jacob blesses Joseph's kids, and Genesis 49, Jacob blesses and prophesies over the 12 sons, and Jacob dies. And then Genesis 50, Jacob is buried in Canaan, and Joseph forgives his brothers again, and then Joseph dies. All right, great. So let's just jump straight in. Lots to talk about today. I think yesterday we spoke a little bit about, the fact that God tells Jacob/Israel, I will be there with you through all of this,
Yeah.
and just the awkward family conversations and so on.
Yeah.
Well, here we've got Israel said to Joseph, I never expected to see your face again, and now God has allowed me to see your children too. And I just wrote that it's just the power, grace, and mercy of God, really, isn't it? Just he was happy to die when he saw Joseph, but now he's lived quite a lot longer. He's got to see the next generation of his family and everything like that. And I just
Yeah.
thought that was really cool.
And I'm not sure if you mentioned it was in your notes yesterday, how it was 17 years that he lived beyond saying, oh, I could die now, I've seen you. I think Joseph already had his sons at that point. So his boys are now basically young adults. So it's not like, I've always kind of pictured it as, I'm going to bless these two little whippersnappers. But actually these are proper, proper young men at this
young
stage.
men. And that's then brings me into the next thing I was going to say, which is the fact that Jacob is sat there on his deathbed, literally, right? He's going to bless his grandchildren, and Joseph sort of arranges them as you would expect. So the right hand is the main blessing, above my pay grade, why that is. But either way, that's the oldest son that Joseph orients there. And then, whatever it is that's flowing through him, he crosses his hands.
Yeah.
And Joseph's like, no, that's the wrong way round. And it's just this craziness as well of Jacob knowing all about the pain and controversy that comes from the blessing of the eldest, because obviously he stole Esau's blessing.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's amazing prophetic power, right?
Yeah.
The fact he says, well, I agree, but nevertheless, the younger brother will be greater.
Yeah.
And so Genesis 48:19.
For sure. And what I love about that is how he stole Esau's blessing, and it was done through deception. But now the blessing, or the greater blessing, is being given to the younger son through the will of God. Like, I think, was it Rebecca, Jacob's mum? If she hadn't have stepped in, would Isaac have blessed Jacob more than Esau anyway, because that was God's plan? Like, I
it's
don't
above
know.
our pay grade. Above our pay grade, mate.
Most things are. Don't know why we do this podcast.
We're stepping into dangerous territory there. It's theological, philosophical.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
More questions than answers type podcast.
Yeah, that's right. We're here to inspire people to read the Bible for themselves and work out their own answers more than to give answers. Yeah, and let us know, please. We're helpless. But no, I absolutely agree. It's very interesting. And the other thing I think that this leads into as well is, obviously we know that God can work through whatever. He works through sin all the time, because that's often all we offer him. But I also think that I'm going to sort of combine two things here, I suppose. Obviously Jacob rebukes his sons, and then it comes to Judah, and Judah must have been like, oh no, what's coming next? But
especially when you look at the other sons and what he said about them, like, he was pretty harsh about the other sons, right? And he must be shaking.
He must be shaking. But what I realize is that even the fact that Jacob blesses the younger, and that's unconventional and not the legalism of Judaism, even that foreshadows Jesus. And then obviously what Jacob says foreshadows Jesus when he talks about to Judah about how Judah's line, the scepter will not depart from Judah until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nation shall be his. Genesis 49:10.
Yeah.
So I just think that that's amazing, isn't it? Because Jesus obviously didn't get on the best with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, shall we say? And that's because they were overly legalistic at times. And this defiance of the legalism, the fact that Jacob is compelled to switch what is legally the rights by the Hebrew codes and everything here, I think is also just sort of showing that a little bit. It's kind of cool.
I love it. I think there's so much in his prophecies, Jacob's prophecies to his sons, that we don't pick up on. I was listening to a podcast the other day that kind of broke it down a little bit more, because there's stuff in here like Dan. He says that Dan will bring justice to the people, and through the tribe of Dan is where Samson came from. And obviously Samson, a bit of a wrong in himself, but brought justice through killing the Philistines. And then he's saying about how Gad will be effectively like the first one to see intruders. And actually, when Israel's going into the promise, or the Israelites going into the promised land, Gad is one of the nations that stays to the east of the Jordan. So anyone who came from that way would have, like, they would have seen the intruders first. And it's amazing how actually that stuff plays out. This wasn't just some old guy talking some loopy nonsense. He was obviously so in tune with what God was saying, and that is, kind of a testament to, I know that there's the passage in the Bible, don't let people look down on you because you're young, but it's also actually, you can be literally on your deathbed and still be impacting nations at this stage. So it's a real encouragement,
It's absolutely incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. I want you to hold up your wine for a second for the next one. So in the Judah prediction, in the Judah blessing, right? Eyes will be darker than wine, teeth whiter than milk. That intense, ferocious, kind of amazing, striking look of Jesus is shown here.
Yeah.
That blows my mind as well. This whole thing just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I had one other thing I'd like to cover from Genesis 50. The fact that it was 40 days to embalm Jacob, and then the Egyptians mourn him for 70 days. I couldn't help but notice the 40 and the 70. But 40 is also a very powerful number in the Bible, right? You have the fact that the earth was flooded for 40 days, for example. And I looked, there was an article, I should have written some things down. There's so many significant things that are 40 days. I think Jesus is tempted in the wilderness for 40 days, correct?
Yeah.
And there are lots of others, but there are two good ones. So there's even a significance to the servants and the process of mourning the servants, embalming them, I think, that links and ties them in to all of this. In a very meaningful way.
It's very true. Just nipping back here to Jacob blessing his sons, there's one little favoritism act, one little act of favoritism where he's giving Joseph the one extra ridge, plus his two sons become half tribes of Israel, right? There are 13 tribes of Israel, because Ephraim and Manesseh get a half tribe each. Like that favoritism just sneaking through at the end there, isn't it, really? But one thing that you pointed out, wasn't it, around how that ridge was taken from the Amorites by his sword and bow, hey? And I looked into that just very briefly, and actually we mentioned how Joseph was sold to the Ishmaelites, who was like a second cousin of his, or cousins or whatever. And actually the Amorites came from the family of Ham, who was the son of Noah. And that was like his like great uncle, I think, was in that sort of, so again, it's all family related, but at this stage, a bit of family battling going on as well.
Family feuding. Yeah, that's all fascinating stuff. I got a quick confession to make. I know we're running out of time for this episode. I'm very, very sad that we want to finish this. I'm very excited to start, Murray, but I will say that every time Reuben was mentioned, I had to think of the sandwich. So I am glad that I won't be getting hungry from that anymore. Every time, mate, the Reuben sandwich. So I managed to keep it out of all the rest of our chat about Genesis, but I'll end it there for me.
That is glorious, mate. Well, if after that you still have any questions about sandwiches or otherwise, please feel free to visit the Facebook page 2 Brits and a Bible.
Or you can email us at 2britsbible@gmail.com.